Hello everyone and welcome back to another live stream with me, Grizzly. This is Grizzly True Crime and this is part 3 of the preparation for Ashley Benefield's trial, also known as the Black Swan trial or Black Swan murder trial. That will be starting on July 22nd of 2024 at last. It's been a lot of delays. And so that will start with jury selection on that day, and it's set to last, the whole trial is set to last a week or two. So what we've been doing is what we often do for trials is really get prepared. Let's look at everything, every side we possibly can, read documents, do all the stuff. So we've done a part 1 preparation and a part 2. The part 1 was a year ago, and that was a deep dive, which I'd recommend checking out if you want the presentation, like a long presentation with the probable cause affidavit and everything that we went over there. So that's part 1. Okay, there's a playlist for this case as well. It's called the Black Swan trial, so you can catch up on everything there. Yesterday we did part 2, depending on when you're watching this, and today we're going to dive into part 3, which is a little different because we're going to look at the defendant's side of the story, which we don't usually do. The reason we don't do it, not because we want them to have a fair trial, but this is interesting because there's a lot of supporters for this defendant, like a lot of people rallying, protesting, saying that this isn't murder, that it was self-defense. Of course, her defense is that it was self-defense. She's going for the battered woman or battered spouse syndrome defense, although the judge said this isn't a battered spouse syndrome case. This is a second-degree murder case, and he wants them to focus on that. But I just wanted to see why there's so much support for this defendant. Let's look at the other side. Let's see what they're saying. I think it could be interesting. And I think this trial will be very interesting, right? Let's see what comes out at the trial. Maybe there's things we didn't know. So yeah, on this one, I'm trying my very best to just stay neutral, of course, because we're going to hear a lot more at the trial. Angel, baby, thank you so much. You just said, I just love your breakdown of all the trials you do. I don't have time to watch a whole trial in the evenings. Okay, well, you mean like defluffed? Because I'm going to be streaming the whole trial, but now we're trial prepping, but we will be defluffing things, so it will be as expedited as can be, efficient. Okay, welcome to all my moderators, patrons, members, subscribers, any locals in chat, any friends or family of the victim in this case, Douglas Benefield, the man who was shot on September 27th of 2020 by his wife, Ashley Benefield, a former ballerina and former swimsuit model. If you didn't know, the two of them got married within 13 days of meeting each other. They met at a Trump rally, and so they had a lot in common. They loved religion, guns. The Second Amendment is what they said. And when I reread the Vanity Fair article that we'd spoken about in part 1, I linked it as well in all part 1, 2, and 3. So go read that, okay? The Vanity Fair article is very interesting. I didn't realize quite how deeply religious the two of them were, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying I didn't realize it. It almost sounds, it reminds me a little bit of Laurie and Chad sometimes, where I'm like, whoa, like what are they saying to each other? Anyway, so Maggie said, I have no knowledge of this case at all so far, so I'm all ears. Thank you for being here, Maggie. I hope that everyone who's here will like and share so that others can also see what we're up to. Maybe now you're only catching part 3. I would highly recommend checking out part 1 and also, of course, part 2, but especially part 1, because that was the deep dive. Helen, you said, thanks, Chief, for all your hard work you put in every day, and you have the best mods. Thank you so much, Helen, and for being a member for 5 months. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at the recap of the case happened yesterday. Okay, so if you want that, go check out part 2. These are the supporters of Ashley Benefield. They're all wearing purple. They all believe that this is a domestic violence case, that Ashley Benefield was a victim of coercive control and domestic violence, and that she was acting in self-defense, that she shot her husband because she felt her life was threatened. Now that's where I'm like, ooh, I think it's going to be hard to prove that at this trial. To prove self-defense based on the ballistic evidence, like the detective saying, and we'll see their arguments, the side's arguments for it, but the detective saying that when she started shooting, it didn't even seem like how all the bullets were flying, that he was even facing her. Eventually, he was shot in the right leg and also in the chest. So that does mean from the front, sort of, although it skipped, I think, like through a bicep and then hit his chest. Okay, and he didn't die there. He was taken to the hospital and then died from his injuries. So, it's not like he was shot in the back. Okay, so that's important to note. The detective just said it seemed like she started shooting when he wasn't even facing her. He was apparently like looking into a cupboard or something. So, put it this way. You guys know how passionate I am about talking about domestic violence awareness, showing the DV distress signal. We talk about a lot of cases over here, right? And so this is interesting because if it is one, okay, if it is one, it still doesn't mean that you could just shoot the aggressor if it's not self-defense. You know what I mean? Like just one day you decide, you know what, I've just had enough now. I just want this guy out of my life. He's been stalking me, abusing me, whatever it is. And then you just decide that's it for him. You can't do that. You can't do that. So even if the arguments are both, like let's say, and I'm only speculating, I do not ever want to victim blame on this channel. I want the full picture in this case, right? So even if, there's a small chance, if he is a domestic violent, if he was a DV aggressor, if he was a stalker and coercive controller, it could still be true that one day she just decided, that's it, I'm gonna get rid of this guy now. You just never know. Or did she act in self-defense? I don't know. We'll have to see what the defense is gonna say. How will they defend that? How will they prove that? Because I think the state is obviously wanting to prove that this was second-degree murder, which means not premeditated, acting in the moment, but still. Wow. Okay, so this is a website. It's called westandwithashley.com. Okay? And it's got a lot of information on it. We're going to go over some of it today. We're going to go over some documents today as well. But as I say, this is, it's a rabbit hole and a half. Okay, you could spend days looking through the piles of documents, the articles. There's a 48 hours, what do you call it? Like a documentary as well. That's how long it is. Obviously, it's about, let me just see how long it is. Yeah, about 43 minutes long. So if you haven't watched that yet, go check that out as well. Also, before we dive into this, I do want to say we will have a members-only stream again very soon, probably tomorrow. Okay, so if you are a member, just know we're going to have one soon again because time has flown and tomorrow's already Friday. All right, so they say, let's go to Ashley's story first. It's going to be this one, okay? We're going to start here. And as I say, bear in mind that this is the other side of the story. This is her supporters' side of the story. The crowd that believes, and there's a lot of them, that she's innocent, that she was only acting in self-defense. Okay, so the true story of Ashley Benefield. I would say the story of Ashley Benefield, but okay, the true story. Here we go. What started out as a seemingly picture-perfect marriage from the pages of a fairy tale quickly turned into a nightmare. This is the true story of Ashley Benefield. This page is to help spread truth and stop the lies that have been propagated by the victim-shaming media. Stand with us as we stand for the truth. It is time that we band together to believe victims to put a stop to domestic violence. All true, right? One wants to raise awareness for domestic violence, but if she, you know what I mean? If it wasn't self-defense, well, that's a damn shame, for victims of domestic violence. Okay, that would do damage. So, a whirlwind romance. When Ashley met Doug, it was a whirlwind romance that swept her off her feet. But in the months that followed, the newlywed couple was hiding a dark secret. So here's a picture of Doug and Ashley. Trigger warning, okay? They're going to show a very cute dog here. And so they say, this is Sully, the family dog. Things escalated quickly from coercive control and verbal abuse to threats and physical acts, abuse and violence towards Ashley and their pet. Now, there were depositions that took place, court hearings when Doug Benefield was still alive. Ashley had convinced him to reverse his vasectomy. She got pregnant, and then when she was pregnant, she kind of made a run for it and went to stay with her mom. And then she came back to the house to give him a note to say, I'm done. And then he was fighting for custody of his daughter. So there were court hearings about that, okay? And so in these court hearings, there are documents with transcriptions of what happened in the courtroom. We're actually going to listen to some of it later today. But here they say, this is part of some of those exhibits and documents. So the text message here, I'm going to have to zoom in a lot more for you. This is from Doug Benefield, apparently, to Ashley Benefield. And he said, Who got me so mad, Ashley? I told her about wall. I told her about gun. I told her we argued. Common denominator is you. Until you have never punched a dog or shot a gun. Probably say, tell me you've never punched a dog or shot a gun. Look in the mirror yourself. So then I think she says, so you told her then? You told her, and Dia says you punched a dog? I punched the dog. Oh, it says Doug's text after he punched Sully the dog. Shame, man. I punched the dog because you got me so mad, like you wouldn't stop about Eva. Eva is his biological daughter. She was 15 at the time when Ashley and Doug met, and I think 18 when Doug, her dad, was shot. I've also linked her TikTok and her t-shirt store if you want to check that out. You got to check out part 1 to see her story, part 1 to 6 that she shared on TikTok, right? So he said, I punched the dog, so he admits it, because you got me so mad, and like you wouldn't stop about Eva, always Eva, every argument Eva. She says, you punched the dog because of Eva? Sounds like you are unstable. Says, wow, look in the mirror, Ashley. So you admitted to all that, huh? Oh my goodness. And then after that, there's more text messages. It says, when he hit, kicked, and punched the dog and threw the family cat, Doug used his abuse of their pets as a means to hurt and control Ashley. So he says, I just lost it. I found my breaking point. And she says, and you took it out on a dog? He said, fine, you can remind me. Ashley, I was stupid. I was angry. I was frustrated. I was lost. I needed help. I got help. And then she says, and you threw a 13-year-old cat? And then he says, how many times do you want me to say I failed? That all shows that a man who has never done that was under too much pressure. That's what happens. You break. I broke. I lost it. I know. I got help. Okay, so that does suck. Don't let it blind you, though, in the case. You know, most of us here, we love animals, okay? Nobody likes anybody who's punching dogs and throwing 13-year-old cats. No sympathy there. But what we got to focus on are, even though I'm not a lawyer, the legal aspects of this case. Can they prove self-defense? Was it self-defense, or was she just done with him? Okay. So here they say, here's a picture, Doug, his daughter, and Ashley. So this is Eva. In a new state, away from all of her family and friends, Ashley was isolated and quickly found her whole world unraveling before her eyes as she tried to cling onto the hope for a happy future with Doug and his daughter. Doug's unrelenting jealousy turned into even more extreme possessive and controlling behaviors that further isolated Ashley from the outside world. So here it says, I'm sorry. Okay. Now, I think he says, hold on. Now all I see is some douchebag on top of you, effing you with your legs spread and him choking you out and effing you more. That's what he writes to her. Right now, I literally want to go kill him or them. And then she says, baby, don't even think like that. No one will ever touch me. And he said, you haven't seen the warrior side and never want to. And she says, I'm yours. I don't. You're right. I want to see you only as my sweet and loving husband. Okay. So, they say tensions were building at home as Doug's violence continued to escalate. And you could see he punched holes in the wall. He took a gun out of the holster. He shot into the ceiling to stop her talking, basically, which is an intimidating thing to do. I get that, okay? They say holes Doug punched in the walls of their home. Ashley was walking on eggshells, never sure what would set him off. There's also pictures here. He told her that she was lucky he punched the walls and not her. But it didn't stop there. Doug's anger and aggression continued to escalate until one day he pulled a gun during an argument, which according to Doug was nothing new since he admitted to pulling a gun on his previous wife, Renee, more than once. And there are text messages from his first wife, Renee, who died 9 months before he met Ashley from an underlying heart condition. Now, Ashley is convinced that he poisoned his first wife and that he was poisoning her. But there was no evidence found of that, apparently. But the thing is, there are text messages that they've shown in some of these court exhibits, which they list nicely chronologically on this website, which is very helpful, actually, to see it like this, where his ex-wife said, like, the way you kicked me on our honeymoon, oh dear, oh dear. So, you know, when people say the word toxic, it's just another word for abuse. This was a toxic, aka abusive relationship. It's just like, wow, it just seems, you know, really all over the place. Both doing things, which I wouldn't normally say, actually. Normally there is definitely a victim of domestic violence and coercive control. But now we've got this case where, like, oh my goodness, this trial is going to be so interesting. Stefan said some anger management issues, right? Miranda said this seems manipulative. Was it after she showed him her new engagement ring, even though they were working on the relationship? You see that? Like, apparently she was very manipulative and kind of taunted him, and she put on that new engagement ring and said she's actually met someone else. You know what I mean? Like, she wasn't, it's not the usual that we might see, even though each case is different in a domestic violence case, because she's kind of like pushing his buttons sometimes, and that's interesting in itself as well. And she's coming up with all kinds of like illnesses and saying he's poisoning her and there's like heavy metal poisoning, all sorts of things. Okay, so we're just looking at it. So it says, which according to Doug was nothing new, right? Doug testified that his actions that day were done to make Ashley shut up. Mission accomplished, he said, recalling the incident during sworn testimony at his 2018 deposition. That was about all the custody battles for the daughter. And because she'd filed all kinds of restraining orders, domestic violence, filings, stalking, all these things that she'd filed with the police, right? Okay, so this is close-up of a bullet hole shot by Doug. Now it says, to the world, Ashley and Doug's relationship had a picture-perfect outward appearance, but behind closed doors, Ashley silently struggled with a terrifying reality. Doug and Ashley smiling in public. She did say, if you did read that Vanity Fair article, that she's a ballerina and she can put on a hell of a show. So that was a memorable line. She's like, I could look happy in any photo. I'm a ballerina. I could put on a hell of a show, like, oh dear, remember that. Okay, yesterday we went over some of her red flags and some other red flags. So if you missed part 2, you got to go check it out, right? Now, through pregnancy, separation, court hearings, makeups, and breakups, Doug continued to relentlessly pursue Ashley. Well, yes. Yes. Yes, that is what they say. Of course, it's just that they were still married. But one thing to note is that he did not believe in divorce. He had a very strong belief system. He does not believe in divorce. Whereas the court had made it clear that there were two different vibes going on. She wanted to leave him, and he did not believe in divorce. So Miranda says you can also make yourself look like a victim. And see, if that's what's happening in this case, that is such a disservice to true victims of coercive control and domestic violence. Hence, we got to see what's going to happen in this trial. If it comes out that this is, I don't know, that she made herself look like a victim, which her ex-boyfriend said she was great at doing, oh dear, that's going to be very upsetting. So they say here, this was Manatee County Courthouse. Doug repeatedly violated a no-contact order, which ultimately led to law enforcement sending several charges over to the state attorney to prosecute. Charges that could have resulted in Doug spending many years behind bars. This, I'm going to link for you. It's called WeStandWithAshley.com if you want to zoom into everything, right? After several months of waiting with another injunction hearing on the docket, the state attorney dropped the ball and the pending charges on Doug. Doug followed Ashley across 3 state lines, illegally tracking her car and secretly stalked her. He did admit in text messages that he used Eva's tracker and put it on her car. He apparently also said in text messages, based on court documents that I've been reading through there, trying to get through, that he was outside her building, taking pictures of the building, seeing who's going in and out, thinking she's cheating and all of that. So, but he is still the victim of a homicide. Okay, so keep that in mind. When a Florida judge failed to continue court-ordered protection for Ashley, Doug was suddenly back in her daily life. All right, notes found on Doug's phone. Okay, let's look at the notes. Note created 4/24/2019. Title April 24th. Ashley lies about what doing. Ashley lies about what doing. She went to Dr. Forrest, then went to Hope Family Services for almost 3 hours meeting someone, leaving E at home, their child, right? Okay, so 9 a.m. Ashley drives to strange address never been to before, puts the address there, law office of Jonathan Green, divorce attorney. Left this office and now second time at this address near a ballet. Stayed until, so he's definitely, it seems like he was keeping tabs on her, which might otherwise known in many cases, it might be known as stalking, right? Now Jackie said, if you think someone was poisoning you and your baby, would you really go back to him? Right? Because they did reconcile. They did after that. Okay, now, trigger warning. I want to read. Maybe I should actually make this smaller. I will show you a quick preview. There's pictures here of the baby, and she's alleging that when the child was visiting with Doug, that she came back with injuries. Okay, so I'm just gonna protect by doing this for a second. Okay, the rocky relationship continued to evolve as Ashley tried to navigate the ins and outs of co-parenting with her abuser. After another attempt to distance herself from Doug, the threats of stalking were back full force as Doug continued to pursue Ashley. As time went on, Ashley's daughter started coming home from time-sharing visits with unexplained injuries. What started out as bumps and bruises turned into dramatic injuries to her face and mouth, as well as drastic changes in behavior, fear, and disturbing play that would depict an angry daddy who hurt the dog and even the child. Well, I hear it. Another side of the argument could also be that we have witnessed her manipulating and using and exploiting her child present day. Her daughter, 6 years old, is standing outside the courtroom, as we saw yesterday, holding up a sign that says, "Please keep my mommy free." And they even gave her a megaphone, which on Patreon, we've got a community chat. One is called Case Discussions and the other's for like pets and things. So if you like all that behind the scenes stuff, come and join us on Patreon. And there, one of our patrons showed a picture that's been shared on TikTok of this little girl with a megaphone protesting for her mother. Now that's child abuse. I know a very small percentage of people feel differently. That's child abuse. She's 6 years old. You can't do that. It's her dad that was killed, after all, by her mother. This is a very adult case in an adult courtroom. The child should not be there at all. She should be protected. Okay. So, Rob says that was so abusive of her to do that, right? Angela Kay said she knew what she was doing to him. Thanks, Grizzly. You present these cases so... thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay, so now I'm just gonna scroll over there. Now they say there was... Okay, wait, you can't see that. There was yet another pending injunction hearing on the docket for September 30th, 2020. Now, to me, that's a little bit of a red flag because there's this pending injunction for September 30th of 2020, where apparently, now they say Ashley never made it to that injunction hearing. I would say Doug never made it to that injunction hearing. They were going to reveal what psychologists had found in their studies of these two people, Ashley and Doug, and there was this hearing coming up, and he was shot 3 days before that. Now that's a red flag for me because we've seen cases like that too, where people are gone, before the court hearing happens. Was she afraid that she was going to lose yet another court battle? Because she lost every other court battle so far, including since she murdered or shot. Since she shot Doug, could be in self-defense, could be murder. We'll see. She's charged with second-degree murder. Since she shot him, okay, she has had motions to dismiss the case against her. That didn't go anywhere. She has had stand your ground hearings, 2-day stand your ground hearing. That didn't go anywhere. So she just never gets anywhere in court, to the point where a previous judge in one of these cases said there isn't a scintilla of evidence of what Ashley was presenting there. The judge was quite agitated with it. What are you trying to prove here? There isn't any evidence of what you're claiming. So that is a red flag as well, right? Okay, so he was shot 3 days before this other hearing was supposed to take place, of course. Order extending hearing for protection against domestic violence is what was ticked on the form there. And then the narrative says Ashley was attacked. On September 27th of 2020, Ashley was in her home when she was threatened, assaulted, battered, and attacked by Doug. Battered? Oh dear. Okay. Sorry to the supporters of Ashley Benefield. Okay, what? I'm just attacked. They are going to argue that there was evidence of this. The police said that they did not find evidence of this. All right. But the thing is, she was also in her mother's home. So she was staying with her mom. She had hidden the pregnancy. So she asked Doug to reverse his vasectomy, then got pregnant. While pregnant, ran home to mommy. Okay. When she was staying there, she had the baby in secret. C-section that she scheduled for herself, had the baby, named the baby, not a name that they had agreed upon, and then also listed no father on the birth certificate. So then Doug was like trying to find her and trying to find like, where's our child? Like, what's happening? Oh no, she's already been born. He's like, what? So he's now fighting for Ashley, fighting for his daughter as well, right? Second daughter. And so, you know what I mean? That could quickly turn into, oh my word, he's stalking me. But like, he's your husband and father of your child, who you married after 13 days of being with him. Which that's in itself is a red flag, and the age gap and all that stuff. I get it, but I'm just like, damn. Miranda says, what type of abuse is Ashley claiming? Battered spouse syndrome, domestic violence, coercive control, and stalking. Okay, so they say Ashley was attacked. But now the thing is that he was kind of invited there, lured there in a way. Because even though they were going through all these court battles, she had said that they should all move to Maryland. She was going to move to Maryland, which is where she was apparently from, with the mom, with the baby, and Doug was going to start a new job in Maryland too. So they had agreed to kind of like get back together and start a family there. And all the friends were surprised because of the rocky relationship. Like, why are they all moving to Maryland? One, I think it was a family member, warned Doug, I don't know, man. It doesn't seem like, I think she's just trying to get you to Maryland to start new court battles there. So don't be gullible, right? Is what the friend or family member told Doug. But he said he just wants his family back together. He's going to go there. And so while he was there at her mother's house, her mother and the baby went for a walk. And in that time, when there was one more box to pack, everything was packed. She used him, I'm just going to say it like that, to help pack the U-Haul. That's what he was there for. Help me pack the U-Haul because we're all moving. So he packed all her stuff into a U-Haul. They were set to leave the very next morning to move to Maryland. And then the mom and the baby take a walk, and then he's shot in the house. And now it's basically all we have is her side of the story, really. You know what I mean? And then obviously the evidence, which is why I'm very excited to hear the evidence at this trial. Okay, so they say she was attacked. Ashley's home in Lakewood, her mother's home. A motion filed by Ashley's attorneys details the events that transpired on that evening. Yeah, by Ashley's attorneys, the defense attorneys, okay? Blueberry says, convenient time for a walk, don't you think? Quite convenient. Peggy says, I watched 48 Hours last night called Black Swan. I heard the audio of the court hearing poisoning, and the judge says it's not a scintilla of evidence. I know, right? I've seen that as well. I hope you guys have too. There's so much. We could sit here for hours and hours and hours looking at everything. I would recommend reading the Vanity Fair article, checking out that 48-hour documentary, all of that before the trial. Okay, so, and then obviously we're doing like part 1, 2, 3. We're trying to do as much as possible of prep work before the trial starts. Miranda said she shot him with one of the 3 guns that she had hidden in the almost empty house. Yeah, that as well. So they say the judge on Ashley's case, as well as state attorney, mutually agreed after reading her motion that she was in fact entitled to immunity from prosecution because it's legal to defend your life in all 50 states. I don't think did they agree? What? Okay, let's just see this quickly. They say it is therefore ordered in a judge the defendant has raised a facially sufficient claim of entitlement to immunity raised the claim. And the burden of proof is on the state to overcome the immunity by clear and convincing evidence. Well, yeah, you see. And that's why we're going to trial, which starts on July 22nd. Sorry, I wanted to click on this one quickly. Zen Raindrop said yes. He attacked her while holding a box with his back to her. Right. Yeah. So this is sounding quite hectic. Okay, the judge on Ashley's case. Okay, that's what they said. I'm not too sure on that. To me, the judges have all around been like, there's not a scintilla of evidence. And even this judge that we saw yesterday from the pretrial hearing, I showed you 9 key moments from there, was like, this is not a battered woman syndrome case. That judge is so snarky. I can't wait to see this trial. So here they say on the night of September 27th of 2020, that night that she shot him, Ashley was not treated like the victim despite the evidence of her attack. I'm trying to stay neutral. All I want to say is that the victim is the person who was shot. That is the victim of the shooting. But okay, she was not treated as the victim despite the evidence of her attack. And here's the alleged evidence. Okay. She was handcuffed at gunpoint, put in the back of a cop car, and taken to the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. Because of the pending injunction hearing, Ashley's attorneys had already been on high alert. When they got word of a shooting, everyone's first instinct was that Doug had finally killed Ashley. Oh dear. And Laura says, I'm so torn on this one. I have my opinions already. I want to express them, but I'm afraid in case there was DV involved and Doug was never found out. You see, I think most of us would probably feel a little bit torn on this one. Some not, but I can understand feeling torn on it and being cautious, myself and being cautious. But my disclaimer is, even if he was a DV aggressor, coercive controller, stalker, you can't just one day just shoot him because you're done with him. You're sick of this. That's not how it works. You have to keep doing the court battles, filing the police reports, fighting for your child. You can't just shoot someone when they have their back to you. You know what I mean? Oh my. So you can't be like a vigilante. You know what I mean? You can't just suddenly. It has to be in self-defense. And if her life was not in danger at that time, it's not self-defense. Oh dear. Okay, so that's why I say I think it's going to be difficult for her defense to prove that it was self-defense. But let's see. Okay, so Ashley's legal team quickly flocked to her defense, meeting her at the MCSO where she was being held in an interrogation room. Yeah, she lawyered up extremely quickly, which of course we know is the right thing to do. It doesn't mean she's shady or sus or whatever. You should. They always say, lawyer up, don't talk to the police. I get it. Ashley was shaking and in shock from the trauma that she had just endured, but her nightmare was far from over. And as she was being held, Ashley's daughter was remanded into state custody. The given reason, failure to protect the child from abuse from her father, Douglas Benefield. Okay, for the next 37 days, Ashley was in and out of dependency court fighting for the right to even visit her 2-year-old daughter, only to then be charged and arrested for having defended her own life. That was just the beginning of the battle in dependency court. Ashley fought for over a year before she was reunited with her young daughter. The dependency case was ultimately closed. Her daughter was returned, and the court found that Ashley was a very good mother who should not have had her daughter removed from her custody in the first place. Okay, they say Ashley's daughter visibly upset as a supervised visitation with her mother was coming to an end. All right, so Stefan says, lawyering up so quick means she's either very clever or it was premeditated. Yeah, she lawyered up very quick. All right, so Steel Guitar says, I can't wait to see how this will play out with the jury. Yes, exactly. That is what is going to make this trial so interesting, is what is the jury going to decide? Because it's a very tricky case. So they say the state colluded. Ashley, her legal team, psychologists, therapists, counselors, advocates from the domestic violence shelter, her family and friends all cooperated with law enforcement as they investigated the case. Yet there's only one witness in her case. At her trial, one defense witness, and that's her mother. So where's everybody else? You know what I mean? Okay, multiple interviews were, unless she was that isolated. Okay, multiple interviews were conducted, and each time professionals in the community educated the detective on the history of domestic violence and abuse. Okay, so let's see this quickly. This says, knowing that he was, the pretense that he was a really godly man. I didn't get it. I felt again in a getting a read of somebody, right? Like, that's the fake thing that they're putting out, right? That they're this really godly, loving, kind man, but inside it's not really that godly, loving, right? So I kind of got that fake pretense when I had to do trauma work. And he was hell-bent on, we're going to be together. This is going to work. Okay, so I'm just reading you little bits that they put here, obviously, on this website. This website is naturally very one-sided because they are in support of Ashley, okay? In case anyone's confused. They said a second doctor, forensic mental health professional, detailed the history of abuse and Doug's propensity for violence towards those around him in an extensive interview with detectives. Yet others who volunteered to talk to the detectives were never contacted to give statements. The state's top medical examiner, Dr. Russell Vega, conducted the official autopsy and determined that Doug was shot in the chest from front to back. This information was shared directly with the detective, as was recorded in his records logs, once again corroborating that Ashley was in fact defending her life from an attack at the hands of Doug. As the days went on, oh, sorry, I just want to try to move it across, hold on. As the days went on, it became obvious from the evidence on the scene that Ashley was cornered in her bedroom where she was trapped and attacked by Doug. But why would he attack her? Because he was there to help her move. You know what I mean? So I'm just wondering if he drove all the way there and they were going there to start a new life together in Maryland, and he was packing all the things for her, carrying every box out one by one. Why would he then attack her? Why would her life be in danger? And at the moment where her mother and their child's on a little walk. Forrest Nelson said, this is going to be a heck of a trial. Thanks for all this preparation. Thank you, Forrest Nelson, for your sticker. It's going to be one heck of a trial. Tricky, tricky ground. Kerry reminds us, it's from that Vanity Fair article as well that I've linked for you guys. You got to read it as part of your homework. You know we dish out homework here sometimes. You said they both defrauded all those dancers. She was absolutely fine about being alone with him, sending mom and baby out. She is very manipulative, in my opinion. That's the other thing. She didn't say to her mom, please don't go for a walk. I can't be alone with him. They were going to start a new life together the very next day. You know, so to be like, yeah, you go for a walk. Oh dear. That's very interesting, right? Okay, so they say, as the days went on, okay, so they say here, hold on. Yet still, the MCSO and the SAO refused to close the case as an obvious self-defense. In fact, the lead detectives colluded with the state attorney in an email chain that went back and forth with 3 distinctly different probable cause affidavits. Here they say a chain of lies. So again, I'm going to link this. We'll be here forever if I had to read you every single line. Go and, as part of your homework, go and, it always feels awkward assigning homework to you, but it would be helpful. Read the Vanity Fair article. Go and have a look at some of these exhibits that they've shown. They show version 1, 2, 3. Not only was the detective aware from his conversation with the state's medical examiner that Doug was shot in the chest, but he also knew from the responding officers at the scene that Doug was found on his back because he was facing her when he was shot. But the detective said, and I'm very pedantic about words, that it seemed like she started shooting when Doug wasn't even facing her. And I think he's basing that on, you know, not all the shots she fired hit him. She missed twice, okay? So it says, the same detective knew from the responding officers, as well as the other documented physical evidence from the scene, that Doug was found in the doorway to Ashley's bedroom where he had cornered her just like she said he did. The photographic evidence collected by crime scene techs also documented several injuries on Ashley's body, yet this detective continues to claim he saw no injuries or signs of a struggle. Well, that is what he says. So when did the scratches happen, right? Okay, so even after seeing the documented history of domestic violence, stalking, threats, and having talked to eyewitnesses as well as a forensic psychologist on this case, the detective had the audacity to lie on his probable cause affidavit PCA. This detective intentionally concealed the identity of the witness, removing the fact that she was forensic psychologist Dr. Barbara Russell. He also intentionally left out the fact that he was told the scratches happened on that night, not the day before, in a further attempt to remove imminency and the evidence that Ashley was in fact injured. But most egregiously, this detective intentionally concealed the fact that the aggressor who injured Ashley was Doug. Okay. Now, why would a detective lie on a PCA? We are glad you asked. Law enforcement has a burden that they have to overcome in order to charge someone with a crime. If there was any evidence of self-defense, they should not have charged her, but he did anyway. This is why the detective had to ignore the evidence, lie, and ultimately remove proof that Doug Benefield was the aggressor and that Ashley lawfully acted in self-defense. The worst form of injustice is pretended justice. Now, as you can see on this website, which is called westandwithashley.com, there's tabs: Ashley's story, fact versus fiction, who is Ashley Benefield, and criminalized survivors. Okay, so I'm going to link this for you. What I want to show you as well is they've got this, the Ashley we know. I'm going to scroll real quick because there's lots of pictures of her with her daughter. This one is okay. They say, the Ashley we know is a loving, kind, gentle mother, sister, daughter, friend, a beloved member of our community. She's always been the first one to volunteer when those around her are in need, whether she knows them or if they are a complete stranger she just met. She's the first to show up, the last to leave, always a shoulder to cry on. She puts everyone else's need above her own. All of that, all the nice things. Now, this could still all be true, and she could still have shot him when she shouldn't have. You know what I mean? It's going to be so interesting. This trial is going to be hectic. I can't wait to watch it with you. So again, they've got lots of pictures, as you can see. I'm scrolling really quick. They say, we march for justice for Ashley. And so, it's looking a little bit Karen Reedish, but I don't think the case is at all. It's not. I don't think the cases are similar. I just see there's a lot of protesters, rallies, people all wearing pink and purple for Ashley. Wow, yeah, Pernill's like, geez, a whole website. Yes, there's a whole website. So there's all of that. And then, let me quickly, trigger warning, okay? There's a picture here of Ashley like this. All right, so they say fact versus fiction. Let's look at this quickly, and then I'm going to play you a clip from the depositions, which is about 12 minutes long, and then we're going to look at a letter that Ashley wrote to Doug when she got pregnant, left to stay at her mom's house, and came back a little bit, and then left him a note. Okay? Fact versus fiction. Debunking the myths. No sign of injury, not according to crime scene technician. Evidence photographs taken by the Manatee County Sheriff's Office crime scene technician on the night of September 27th of 2020 document multiple injuries on Ashley's body, yet the state's lead witness and an MCSO detective, I don't know why they say detective, he is a detective, but okay, continues to make the claim that he saw no signs of injury on Ashley the night that she was forced to defend her life from the attack of her estranged husband, Doug. These evidence photographs taken by the MCSO were then presented by the state as evidence and were even verified by multiple employees of the MCSO as authentic and accurate. Not to trivialize any injuries that she may have had, it just looks like cat scratches or like a little scratch. And she initially had said something about a box that like Doug had lifted and it scratched her, or it was part of the packing the U-Haul. I don't know, man. Miranda says she added an Amber Heard filter. Oh dear. So this is shot in the back? Not according to the state's own experts. Since day one, the local and national media has reported that Doug Benefield was shot in the back, but the evidence says otherwise. The official medical examiner's autopsy report states that Doug was found to have a gunshot wound to the chest, which skipped a bicep and hit his chest. Okay. It wasn't like directly from the front in his chest, which is why law enforcement is saying, allegedly, this is what I've read and studied myself, they're saying, well, it looked like when she started shooting, he wasn't even facing her. Okay, then it says, then the official medical examiner's autopsy report states that Doug was found to have a gunshot wound to the chest. Dr. Vega, who sounds familiar. Doesn't Dr. Vega sound super familiar? Anyway, the chief medical examiner for Florida's 12th Judicial Circuit testified during the hearing, stating that the direction was from front to back. Then they say 15-minute wait, not according to the eyewitness. Some have falsely reported that Ashley stood over Doug for 15 minutes after he was shot. One report even went so far as to say she was waiting for him to die. But the facts of the case prove unequivocally that this is yet another lie. Not one, but two eyewitnesses testified to law enforcement at the scene that they heard what sounded like gunshots, and within seconds they say a very frightened Miss Benefield running from the house. These neighbors continue to explain what they saw, stating that Miss Benefield looked so frightened they believed she was being chased, and they also ran for cover. Okay. Child custody on the docket, not according to the court records. This is all for DV then. They say, although this myth has been propagated by multiple networks and even alleged by the state, official court records show otherwise. There was in fact a pending hearing on the docket for just days after the incident, but it had nothing to do with a custody battle. In fact, this hearing wasn't even to modify any kind of time sharing or related to any other trivial matters. The hearing scheduled for September 30th, 2020 was an injunction hearing that was filed by Ashley's counsel. In fact, there was nothing on the court docket filed by either party regarding any custody issues regarding their daughter. And then they say, Ashley made it all up, right? Not according to Doug. And we saw this text message earlier about him admitting to punching the dog, right? They say the victim-shaming media has continued to propagate the same lies being spread by the state rather than reporting the truth. Doug has made numerous admissions in sworn statements, both during deposition and in a court proceeding, as well as in text messages and emails, admitting to many of the things that Ashley had reported that he did. Doug's admissions include shooting a gun during an argument to shut her up, kicking and punching their family dog in the face, throwing the family cat, punching holes in the walls of their home, and much more. Why is the media labeled Ashley as a liar when the evidence shows through Doug's own admissions that what she has claimed all wrong was true? I think because she can also be a master manipulator and liar, and a victim of DV, and even have shot him, not in self-defense. I think all of those things can be true at once. You know what I mean? This case is not an either or. It's very complex. It's all of it all at once, is what it seems like to me. So, what will the jury decide on this one? They say he didn't punch the dog, did he? Doug's own words say it was a punch. Was it more of a shove or maybe a forceful push like someone had tried to claim? Doug said in both text messages and sworn deposition that it was a punch. Doug said that he did indeed punch the family dog, Sully, in the face. But it didn't stop there. Doug also admitted to hitting and kicking Sully and says he's thrown the family cat, Snuffy, on several occasions. Brian and Jill W. says, has homework to do on this case. Yes! Some people might only be joining now on part 3 and they're like, what have we missed? A lot. You gotta watch part 1 and 2. And that's just what I'm presenting. There's so much still in this case. Okay? Watch part 1 and 2. I've tried to make it as, concise and lots of presentations for you and things to catch you up to speed for when this trial starts next week. Okay? We're gonna be together watching this trial, and it makes me feel so anxious. What's going to happen? Right? Yeah, Rob says in part 1, you can see how manipulative she is. Yeah, this is today's part 3 is kind of one side of the story. It's Ashley's side of the story. It's her supporters. I just wanted to also talk about this because it's quite interesting. So here they say Doug wasn't a wife abuser though, right? According to his previous wife, Renee, he was. Haven't we all heard about how Doug was just a kind and loving father and husband? Wasn't he married to his last wife for 15 years of pure bliss? Not according to Renee Benefield, Doug's late wife. Text messages, emails, and other communications show a very different kind of marriage between Doug and his former wife, Renee. According to a police report, there was a history of domestic violence. Renee claims that Doug punched holes in the walls of their South Carolina home, that he was controlling, manipulative, violent, and even pulled a loaded gun on her more than once. Renee goes on to say that Doug had kicked her and finally had decided to tell him that she wanted a divorce, but 13 days later, Renee Benefield was found dead in their home. In the days that followed, Doug told investigators that he was at peace with her son passing. Well, when you frame it like that, that's interesting. Apparently, he was also married to someone else, but only for I think they said 6 months or something before Renee. So this is they're showing the screenshot, so I can only assume it's a message from Renee Benefield to Doug. And it says, would take pictures and just leave them on your phone, just like I was deeply disappointed that you distorted the truth about who you really were when I married you. I loved you. Through finding out you weren't really what you pretended to be. You kicking me so hard on New Year's Eve on our honeymoon because you were having trouble functioning in certain areas. You holding a gun to your head twice in my home. Oh dear. That's a Renee Benefield text to Doug. Very interesting, very interesting. So, they say not for intimidation. Doug says it was. The media has once again run with this idea that somehow Ashley wasn't quite telling the truth when she said that Doug pulled a gun on her and even shot it during an argument. Could this have been an accidental discharge or maybe not meant for intimidation? According to Ashley, Doug pulled the gun on her, threw it at her, and then retrieved the gun from the wall before shooting it in their home. In a sworn deposition, Doug stated that he used the gun to make her shut up. He went so far as to blame Ashley for the incident and said that she could have stopped at any time, but claims that she continued to argue with him. So it seems almost like also like two adults who just have very strange problem-solving non-abilities, right? It's just like, oh dear. And then they say, master manipulator, ? About Ashley. The facts say otherwise. When there's so much evidence to show that what Ashley has claimed happened to her at the hands of Doug was true, why does the state still claim she's a master manipulator? Because she could be at the same time. Anyway, the truth is not only painful, but important. In cases studied across the country, the pervasive pattern shows that prosecutors statistically paint female victims who are being prosecuted for defending themselves as manipulators who were willing participants in their abuse, even blaming the victims for what happened to them and twisting the evidence to discredit the pain and suffering that they've endured. Courts often keep important evidence hidden from jurors and then use the lack of evidence as proof for the victim in not being truthful. The right to defend yourself is not only legal in all 50 states, but an understood human right as part of the foundation of this country, yet statistics show that women and minorities are often not given this liberty as they are often not believed, charged, prosecuted, and wrongfully convicted. The conviction rate of women who are forced to protect themselves from the abusers is even more staggering. Our judicial system is still operating in an antiquated fashion where the very rules and regulations which govern the entire process and biased and intentionally weaponized against minorities, women, non-gender conforming individuals, and all victims of domestic violence, regardless of age, gender, orientation, and ethnicity. You know, side note, my personal opinion, okay, only my opinion. I think that what this group is doing is great, like fighting for victims of domestic violence. I'm a little worried that they might be fighting for the wrong lady, but I'm not sure. And I don't say that to be hurtful to anyone. I'm just like, I don't know if Ashley is the case. You know what I mean? But you never know. We don't know. It's just there's so much information to wade through in this case. I cannot wait to see what they present at this trial. I can't wait to see what the jury decides, like what is going to happen here, right? Patricia said, was there a reply to the message from the ex-wife? Not that I could find in those court documents or on this website either. So I would like to see the whole thread indeed, right? Because these are little like cherry-picked bits to prove a point, you know what I mean? So it really is one side of things that we're looking at today. The other two parts, we looked at very much the other side, okay? So they say, take a stand with the truth, believe victims of domestic violence, and stand with Ashley. You see, for me personally, I would take a stand with truth. I believe victims of domestic violence. I do not quite stand with Ashley. I'm going to stand on my own over here, and I'm going to be observing because I'm like, I don't know. Because even if, as I say, one is a victim of domestic violence, stalking, coercive control, you can't just one day be like, I'm done with this guy. What a freaking asshole. I'm just going to shoot him in the back type of thing. I know he got shot in the chest, but you know what I mean. It started when he was not facing her, according to detectives. So yeah, you can't like take it into your own hands, because then we see, whoa, a lot more murders. Yeah, you got to follow the process. Even if you feel impatient, even if you've had enough, can't just shoot someone. So unless it is self-defense, and if they can prove that, ooh, that's going to be interesting. Miranda said, wow, this really reminds me of Amber and Johnny. Remember how Amber would turn every incident into something it wasn't? Yes. And then in some court documents that I've been going through, and as I say, there's a lot, oh my goodness. One of Ashley Benefield's ex-boyfriends was interviewed, and he said that she actually slapped him. You know, that she hit him, but then would play the victim. And I'm like, oh dear. Oh my. So that is also like, whew, it's very hectic, right? Katrina said, same here, G, I'm going to watch and then decide. Yeah. On this one, I mean, normally that's what one should do, although, you know, we are the public. We're not the jury or the judge. We're not deciding this person's fate, so we can have an opinion. But I'm telling you, man, in this case, I'm like, ooh, I don't know. I'm just gonna be over here observing. I want to see what happens and what evidence they present. Okay, so we've looked at that. Now what I want to play you before we get to a letter, just for a little mental break. It's not really a break what we're about to listen to, but just something else. Let's listen to a clip. Okay, it's 12 minutes long. Then I'm going to read you a letter that Ashley wrote to Doug telling him why she's leaving him. Okay, so let's first listen to this. Here we go. Wait, where is it? Hello. There we go.
That was probably one of the first things that had started, was a lot of kind of...
Let me first explain that this is from this court hearing that happened in July of 2018, and it's clips that are obtained from coverage that Vinnie Politan on Court TV had. So what he does is he talks and he plays some clips, then he talks, he plays some clips. So I just took all the clips and put it together so we could listen all at once. But it's just snippets. That's the first thing to note. Secondly, some of it is direct examination, some of it's cross-examination. But let's just listen to what Ashley had to say at these court hearings in July of 2018. And it was all about these, you know, claims that she was making and why she wanted her husband nowhere near their child, okay?
Verbal scare tactics, I suppose. I had known he was in the military, but he had told me about how he was an angry person and how he had been raped as a teenager, and that he went into the military because he was angry and it was a good avenue for his anger. He said that he is a good killer because he's angry. He had insinuated that outside of the military that he had connections and that he could kill people, that he could make people disappear, that he had murdered people, poisoned people, that he had gotten away with both, and that he could do it again, and that nobody would ever find out, and nobody could ever prove what he did. He came home from work early, and
You know, that's what she's claiming. Okay, I don't know if that's true or not. She's saying a lot of things right there.
And I was in the bedroom, and he came in, and he immediately became very angry and started accusing me of not loving him, and said that if I had loved him, that I would have responded with a kissing emoji or a heart back. At one point, he had turned to walk away from me, and he was standing in the opening of the closet, and I was standing right on the outside of the closet, and he turned around and he punched a hole through the wall with his fist. He pulled the gun out. I believe it was in his boot, and he pulled it out and he started waving it around. It was unholstered at the time. He then threw the gun facing me. It missed me. It hit the wall behind me, and it punched a large hole. He started screaming, and he told me that, this is a quote, that he was going to blow his brains out.
Quick pause. Laura's saying, who's this speaking? Her, Ashley Benefield. Ashley Benefield is speaking.
And so I stopped and I dropped to the floor, and I started crying, and I begged him to not shoot the gun. And he said that I was going to have to watch him shoot his brains out. And I was screaming and asking him not to. I told him I wouldn't leave. I was literally on my hands and knees. And he, I guess at some point, discharged the gun. I didn't see him aim it at the ceiling, but the bullet went into the ceiling. I had been trying to figure out for a while how to get out.
Get out of what?
Out of danger.
Did you feel in danger?
Yes, I did.
And so what did you figure out?
Well, I realized that since I was in Florida already, that it was a good opportunity to just not go back, and that I knew that my mom would let me stay.
Okay. Did you go back to South Carolina at any point in time after August 26th?
I did twice. On September 18th.
September 18th, meaning after he was down for the storm?
Correct.
You went to South Carolina and did what?
I knew that he would be busy with the media that had come for the launch of the ballet company, which was set to open on September 18th, so I knew he wouldn't be home. So I went
Just remember that Doug was still alive at this point, at court hearings, at depositions that they had. So we're going to hear a little clip of him as well, I believe, in these clips.
to the house, and I grabbed a bunch of my clothes and things out of my drawers that all belonged to me. When I had been brought down to Florida, I didn't have anything with me.
So you went in the home, took your physical possessions?
Correct, yeah.
Did you take anything of his?
No.
Did you leave him a note?
I did.
Okay. And what did you tell him?
I outlined some of the reasons why I was leaving and doing what I was doing. I explained very clearly how he had scared me, and that I wasn't okay with the way he was treating me. I also talked about the different problems that there were in the house.
What did you tell him about the abuse? The same things we're talking about here?
Yes, I also included several incidences where, like, he was angry while he was driving, and he scared me. Like, one time he actually, like, ran up on a curb, like, threw grass, almost hit a tree because he was yelling and screaming at me. He made, like, a U-turn, drove home on a road that speed limit's probably like 25. He was probably going 50, 60. Pulls into the driveway. I thought he was going to just drive straight through the garage. He slams on the brakes and was yelling and screaming at me. There had been multiple times where he got angry while he was driving. Even when he brought me down to Florida, he got angry while he was driving, and he would drive erratically. And I would cry, and I would beg him to stop. I sometimes even asked him to, like, pull over so I could get out, and he wouldn't.
Okay. And so did you file anything in South Carolina to keep him away from you?
I did the order in November.
So in November, you went to court on the domestic violence in South Carolina?
Yes.
And when you went to court in front of the judge in South Carolina, did you ask the judge to prevent him from being around you?
I did.
And did the judge issue a restraining order?
Yes, I believe so.
In your testimony a few minutes ago, you said that Mr. Benefield pulled the gun out of his boot. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I believe so.
So now this is cross-examination, and as I say, it was from a court hearing in July of 2018. And I'm still trying to understand exactly what it was all about, but I think it was about her trying her level best to paint Doug a certain way to keep, her main goal was to keep their child away from him and to leave him. But then after this, she reconciled.
Well, you believe so or you know so?
I remember him pulling it out of his boot.
All right, because in your sworn petition for dissolution, you claim that he pulled the handgun out of his waistband and started waving it around in the air.
And maybe it was his waistband, I'm sorry. He started accusing me of not loving him and said that if I had loved him, that I would have responded with a kissing emoji or a heart back, and that he started accusing me of possibly having a relationship with somebody else. Said this just proved that he loved me more than I loved him. I, of course, told him that, none of that was true, but he became more and more angry, and he, at one point, he had turned to walk away from me, and he was standing in the opening of the closet, and I was standing right on the outside of the closet, and he turned around and he punched a hole through the wall with his fist, and I was standing on the other side of the wall, and the drywall literally came out and hit me in the face.
When the dispute happened, you're saying on April 14th, where you say Mr. Benefield trapped you in the master bedroom and prevented you from escaping. What was the dispute about that day?
I don't remember.
Was it about Eva?
I don't remember. Was that the day with the text messages? I honestly don't remember.
This is your sworn petition, so I'm asking you what happened. Isn't it true that you were in fact following Doug around the house, berating him about his failure to discipline Eva the way you thought she should be disciplined?
No.
That's an important one as well. She was apparently extremely jealous of Doug's 15-year-old daughter, to the point where she read Eva's diary and then had lots of fights with Doug about what Eva wrote in her diary. So that's terrible that she did that. That's a violation of Eva's privacy. What the hell was she thinking? So that's what started all these fights. And the day, I'm not saying that it's okay to shoot a gun into the ceiling. That's not a solution either. It's just, what was she doing? I just wanted to understand, well, how did the fight start? It was all about reading Eva's diary and Eva saying that she basically hates her stepmother, who was only 24 at the time, and Eva was 15, okay? And so she was closer in age to Eva than her own husband. Her husband was 30 years older, and Eva was obviously upset as well because her mother just died 9 months before. And these two got married 13 days after meeting. My word, what a relationship this was, right? What a mess. And so the thing is that she said to one of her friends, I wish he would just pick me. Pick me. She was competing with Eva for attention from her own husband. That's a lot, right? So keep that in mind as well, okay? We've only got 4 minutes and 55 seconds left of this clip.
All right, when he punched the wall, isn't it true that the wall had already been cut out because the ADT alarm system was being installed?
Not to my knowledge, no.
They found heavy metals in your daughter as well?
Yes.
Okay, and all those reports have now been admitted into evidence, correct?
Yes.
And do those reports cause you concern based on your reading of them?
Yes.
And why?
Because they're not normal levels for either of us to have. They're very high levels of strange metals that are not necessarily common.
Okay. And when your daughter was born, she had these heavy metals in her system?
Yes, the meconium would have been dated back to the early weeks of gestation.
Okay. And they're the same heavy metals that you have in your system, correct?
Yes.
But they did say there was no evidence of that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. She thought that Doug was poisoning her, that he sent her a box of tea, and that the tea was really potpourri, and that he was trying to poison her. And she also believes that he poisoned his ex-wife. So I don't know how her mental health evaluation went. Because, Lar says she's lying, no heavy metals. Mm-hmm.
You start to live full-time in South Carolina when?
I would say in December of 2016.
All right. And you're in fine health other than your hamstring recovery in December of 2016?
Correct, yeah.
And did your health take a downturn?
It did.
When did it start? having a downturn?
I would say by January, I had started having weird symptoms. The first and most noticeable was just extreme fatigue.
Okay. And did the extreme fatigue persist during the entire time from January of 2017 to the time that you stopped living with Douglas Benefield?
It sometimes was worse than others, but yes, it was pretty consistent from that time.
And the day that you fixed that you moved out from his home was when?
August 26th, 2017.
Of 2017? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And in the course of living with Douglas Benefield, would he serve you food or anything that you would ingest into your body?
He would. We both enjoyed hot tea frequently. So he had begun a habit of bringing me breakfast in bed. He would also multiple times during the day and a lot of times in the evening when we would go to bed, he would make me a mug of hot tea to go to bed with as well.
I really felt like she watched some true crime stories, like these poison cases we see, and then it just got in her head that that's it, he's poisoning me, and she just ran with it, is what it seems like, okay? Because as Stefan says here, not a scintilla of evidence that she was poisoned is what a judge found. She's never won any case in court. And she even started accusing Doug of physically and sexually abusing their child. And then they investigated that, and they cleared him of any of those accusations. Never mind, there was no charges. They said there's no sign of that. He went through a full psych evaluation and all sorts of things, and they never found anything to back up her claims. So that's scary.
Was there ever anything about the tea that he would serve you that caused you concern?
Yes, on multiple occasions I told him that it didn't taste right. It was a lot of times very sweet to the point where I was so nauseous. I had gently tried to ask him to not make it so sweet because I like honey in my tea, and so he would put honey in my tea. And he multiple times got very upset and offended. If I didn't finish the tea that he brought me, he would get upset. One time I told him that I didn't feel well and I didn't want to drink it, and he started yelling at me, and he called me an ungrateful and said that I was lucky that I had a husband who would make me hot tea, and that it proved that he loved me, and that if I loved him, that I would have just been thankful.
You said that you were sick from January 2017 forward. Is that right?
I began displaying symptoms around that time, yeah.
I'm going to show you what has already been admitted as your Exhibit 6. These are your low country OBGYN numbers. You recognize these?
Yes.
Looking at page 39, do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see the middle of that box? It says, denies lower GI symptoms. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Has regular, normal formed bowel movements without pain or bleeding. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Denies urinary
Is that a
symptoms.
yes or?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I see that it says that, yes.
Okay. Denies new or acute muscle or bone pain. You see that?
Yes.
Denies skin or hair changes. Is that correct?
Yes, it says that.
And these are all statements that you made to your doctor on April 26, 2017. Is that correct?
That's what's recorded in these records, yes.
So are you saying is Low Country lying about this, or is this an accurate reflection of what you said to the doctor?
I believe it's fairly accurate. There are multiple times in the records that I have been reviewing over the past couple months where things aren't what I said they were, and they were written incorrectly.
Okay, here, look at the bottom. It says, husband is here, very supportive, and agrees that she has not been depressed or anxious. You see that?
Yes, he went with me most everywhere I went.
Okay, so those are some of the clips that they shared on Court TV. There are others as well. I've been watching everything I possibly can on this case. And then it's like Mount Everest, trying to bring you little chunks that we could discuss so we can get ready for this trial. But if you just research this case, as I say, there was a 48 hours episode that came out in September of 2021. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out as well. so much. Now I want to show you, she mentioned a letter that she had written. Also, I thought that in those clips there would be Doug's voice too. That's obviously in another clip that I've made somewhere out there. There's a lot to listen to, as I say. So, it wasn't in that clip. But, okay, look at this. Document time quickly. This is what the judge was snarking about yesterday, saying to the defense, I've literally made it clear that this is not a battered spouse syndrome case. And yet, he said, and then you filed this on 6/12/2024 saying notice of intent to rely upon battered spouse syndrome defense. So it seems like they're still going for the self-defense thing, but you know, the judge is like, this is not a battered spouse syndrome case. Stay focused, everyone. She's charged with second-degree murder. It's not about, he said, CPS or family court or any of this other stuff. It's about, is it second-degree murder or is it self-defense, right? But anyway, this was the notice of intent where they say to rely on battered spouse syndrome defense. Ashley C. Benefield, by and through the undersigned counsel and pursuant to rule, all of that, right? Hereby gives notice of her intent to rely upon the defense of battered spouse syndrome, i.e. domestic violence abuse, in the above referenced trial. As grounds in support of the instant disclosure, Ms. Benefield submits as follows. She intends to rely on the defense of battered spouse syndrome, i.e. domestic violence and abuse. Thank you to Dizzy from the Seeking Justice server for this document as well, and to Grizzly Cat and MB Inc. For all the documents in this case. As I say, I've got piles of documents. Like, there's so much in this case from Manatee County. Oh, my word. So anyway, I'm just going to bring you a few today. He said Ms. Benefield expects to prove that she was the victim of domestic violence and abuse perpetrated by the deceased, Douglas Benefield, from 2016 through 2020. Which I still want to say, if that's true, and she did not shoot him in self-defense, but more because she was sick of the abuse, let's say, for an example, you still can't do that. It has to be self-defense, and they have to be able to prove that then. Okay, so Ms. Benefield expects to present evidence that she was subjected to ongoing domestic violence and abuse at the hands of the deceased, which is, again, why the judge is like, that's not what this case is about. Okay, it's about September 27th of 2020. So, and they say from 2016 through 2020 as detailed below. And they've got all these exhibits and all this stuff. So, talking about, let me read you some of these bullet points quick. Angela K., thank you so much for your sticker, by the way, before I read the bullet points. And Debbie, thank you so much for yours as well. Rochelle said she had a hold on him. So sad. And when you read all about the ballet company, we could talk about that afterwards as well. She let down so many people that she promised, you know, all shapes, all sizes, all ethnicities, a whole career in ballet. That's what she always wanted. And she just ditched them all. It was all a lie. The funding wasn't there. She just ran home to her mom and didn't care. Didn't look back. Doug had to deal with it. So that's a lot as well. There's a lot of people that were affected by Ashley's actions alone, even. Okay? So anyway, so the point is here, one more before we dive into these bullet points. Overprotected. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. So they say the defendant expects to prove that the DV abuse she suffered at the hands of the deceased included, but was not limited to, stalking and monitoring of her whereabouts, activities and communication with others, threats of violence against her, including to kill her and make her disappear, physical violence, punching holes in the walls, being trapped inside rooms with refusal to let her out, physically restraining her movement by holding her down, throwing things at her, including but not limited to a gun, books, chairs, and kitchen glasses, discharging a gun into the ceiling. Physical violence against her while she was pregnant. But how? Because she wasn't even there. She left to go to her mom's house, but okay. Threats to shoot himself if she left him. That's also what his ex-wife apparently said. Physical violence against the cat and dog, including throwing, kicking, and punching the animals. Emotional and psychological abuse, including threats and intimidation. My question would be, and when you left to go to your mom's house, did you take those animals? Did you take your animals with? Because I don't think you did you? I don't know if she did. If someone knows the answer to that, that would be quite interesting. If you're so worried about the animals that he's punching and kicking, did you take them with? Does anyone know? Tell me. Okay, they say emotional and psychological abuse, including threats and intimidation, limiting access to finances, and then coercive control. Man, if I was her, I'd put this coercive control first then. Because there are actually laws against coercive control. I don't know about Florida. I'll have to look into it. But some states, of course, it is illegal. Some countries. So they put that first if that's your argument. But the judge is not having this. Okay, so now, here's a letter that she wrote. It says 9/18/19, okay? So when she got pregnant, hear this quickly. One more time. She manipulated him, convinced him to reverse his vasectomy so that she could get pregnant. While doing this, she also convinced him to start a ballet company that she always dreamed of starting. She didn't quite make it as a ballerina because I think she was too tall, 5'9", is what the Vanity Fair article says. So she wanted to not let anyone else suffer that. And so if anyone was too tall or, I don't know, not skinny enough or whatever, different skin color, whatever it is, then she's like, I want to make their dreams come true. So Doug, who was an entrepreneur, former Navy, all of that, he helped her start that company. But then she got pregnant very shortly after starting the company and bolted. She bolted to live with her mom. Didn't look back. So all these ballet dancers from all over the world, they got them visas and everything, were so excited. They were telemarketers saying they're going to live in this building. They're going to be seeing the studio right across the street. They're going to have the best lives ever. They're going to have rooms with flat screen TVs and everything. So they all arrive. They are so excited that finally their dreams are going to come true. Okay. And then they're like, where the hell's Ashley? Where's the founder of the company? And Doug had to try to manage this ballet company of which he knew nothing about ballet. And when they all asked, well, when are we getting paid? Because they had 1-year contracts, Doug didn't have the money. Like, as in the funding, the $2.5 million that he said they were funded by, they didn't have that. So he just went to the bank and withdrew cash and just started dishing out cash on payday for them. Just about bankrupting himself there. So my point is, not only did she abandon him, probably also the dog and the cat, probably also Eva. She ran off to mommy's house when she was pregnant to have the baby that she always wanted, and that's it. At that moment, it seems like only the child mattered to her. She got what she wanted out of Doug, is what it seems like. You know what I mean? And then she's just like, whatever. And then she was all outraged when she heard that some of the ballet dancers were let go. And she spoke about that on Facebook. We talked about it in part 1. But you abandoned your own company. And you didn't even meet the ballet dancers. You didn't care. Yeah. So anyway, so now she wrote this letter, She was pregnant, she went to her mother's house, and then she decided to come back and leave him a note. So she said, Doug, I can honestly tell you that I'm completely heartbroken. Please do not be rash, hear me out, and read all the way to the end of this letter. It's a 4-page letter. Let's hope I don't get Benefield, let's not say Benefield, Ashley flu. We love Eva Benefield, If you don't know about Eva, that's Doug's biological daughter. I've linked her TikTok in the description box as well as her t-shirt company, right? So they say, please do not be rash, hear me out, and read all the way to the end of this letter. Over the past year, we have had good times, yes, but you've also displayed scary and irrational behavior with sudden bursts of rage and fits of anger, extreme and uncontrollable anger. This has left me constantly stressed to the point of nausea and scared for my safety. I never know what will set you off, and so I always walk on eggshells and try to keep the peace. It's like you're two very different people, and I'm never sure when you will lash out and be overtaken with rage. You yell, scream, and cuss at me, even telling me we should get a divorce, that you don't want to see me or touch me again, and that you don't love me. You've put my life in danger multiple times when you had a sudden fit of anger when driving with me in the car. You've driven erratically, way too fast, broken traffic laws, crossed in front of oncoming traffic, driven up over a curb, through grass, almost hit several trees, and acted like you were going to crash the car. Sometimes you break things, smash drinking glasses on the counter, in the sink, or even in your hands because you were so full of uncontrollable anger. You have thrown and broken things, chairs, cups, books, anything you can get your hands on, even a loaded gun, which left a giant hole in the wall in the kitchen. You've even pointed a loaded gun at your head and then shot a hole in the ceiling in the kitchen. There are holes you have punched in the walls all over the house, and even in a door from when you got angry and were yelling in a fit of rage. You use very scary and threatening language that makes me fearful of you and what you might do to me. You even say things to make it sound like that I'm lucky that you punch walls instead of me. She said, make it sound like, that you punch walls instead of me because you don't know what I have done or what I'm capable of. You have intimidated me by getting in my face, even cornering me in either the closet or the bathroom and blocking my way out. You've even grabbed my arm and squeezed and yanked me. I've even seen you get mad at the girls, yelled, screamed, and cussed at them. I now understand why Eva used to tell me she was afraid of you. Nah, Eva didn't say that. Eva was not Ashley's friend. These two did not get along. And Ashley read Eva's diary. And Eva's actually got a lot to say about Ashley. And she's so excited for this trial. And she's testifying for the state. And I cannot wait to see that. Okay, so she said, you are possessive, controlling, and manipulating. All of this is not even to mention the conditions that I've been living in since moving in with you the beginning of last November. Enter princess mode, okay. She's now complaining about the plumbing and all sorts of things. Okay, Miranda A said, no, Tommy or Eva has the dog now. Shame, the cat was pretty old, right? You see, she even abandoned the animals. Oh my word. Okay, so here we go. She says, the house has not had heat or AC since before I moved in, but you made it sound like it was about to be fixed. Because she can't do anything herself, okay? She wants to be pampered, all right? She gets her way or nothing. The house is falling apart in many ways. Cracked tile floors in the bathroom that pinch your feet when you walk. Toilets that don't work all the time. And, sorry, I don't mean to laugh. Focus. And places where the ceiling is literally falling down in giant chunks. There are exposed outlets and wires where I have electrocuted myself. I'm raising my eyebrow, guys. Okay. Right? There is black mold on the walls and ceiling in the kitchen pantry. You see, she's already starting with the poisoning claims. It sounds like, what was that lady's name? There was that actress and her husband that died in a house, and then they said it was pneumonia, but then there were other claims of black mold and all that. I don't know if she was like obsessed over that case, because it sounds like she's starting to talk about that. Yeah, Stefan's like, she's in Karen mode now. So they say the sink in the master bathroom was broken for months, so I had no hot water all winter. I just can't. This is too much. It's like, oh my goodness. Okay. The electric and water has been turned off because of unpaid bills. And can you pay the bills then, lady? Oh my word. We even got a notice in the mail that our house was going into foreclosure. We did not have a working dishwasher for months. Then wash the damn dishes without the dishwasher. My word. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. This sounds like first world problems to me, okay? I am from South Africa. I'm just saying. We don't just have dishwashers. Some do, but many don't. Majority doesn't. I couldn't wash the dishes for months. That dishwasher was broken. When we first moved here to Switzerland, we didn't have a dishwasher for the first few months. I should write Mr. Grizzly a letter. Okay, the tap water is unsafe to drink and smells and tastes like chemicals. And we know it killed our fish. Did it though? Or did you just mess up the water? I don't know. Okay. The water filter broke in the refrigerator and we have been left without safe drinking water or ice, forcing us to go by bottled water. Guys, she had to go in her Tesla to go. I don't know that she has a Tesla. I'm just adding it for effect. She had to get in her Tesla and go and buy bottled water. Okay. We have run out multiple times now and been without water for days, even over a week. This has been going on for months. The freezer does not work and leaks all over the wood floor in the kitchen, which now is molding, rotted, and caving in. All these things and more I have overlooked and lived with for now a year because I love you. But even since finding out I was pregnant, you have continued to display psychotic, irrational, and unsafe behavior that has left me fearful for my life and safety, as well as that of my unborn child. I have come to get only what belongs to me. Do not harass or try to follow me, or I will call the police and have a restraining order against you. Jeez. I will talk with you only via text starting Tuesday, September 19th. Do not call me on my mom. We will not pick up. Thank you for your understanding, Ashley. What? Now that letter, let me tell you a few things that are not going to do her any favors in this courtroom as I see it in this trial. One is this letter. Two is her using and exploiting her child outside the courtroom to be like, keep my mommy free. No, stop doing that. Those two things are doing her zero favors in this. We don't want her to have favors. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, with whatever case she's presenting, yeah, this is not it. This is not it. Wow. Deirdre Rose says, need my dishwasher and need a dryer now. When you're going to write a letter to your alleged abuser, okay, this is what you're going to write? Like, listen, you've been very psychotic and erratic and angry. And now I will make a longer list of all the reasons why I'm upset. Look at it. Look at it. The list, 2 out of 4 pages, is all about it not being a 5-star premises for her. Okay, so that doesn't help. Now, this is an example, is the motion to dismiss, because they actually, her and her attorneys filed a motion to dismiss the entire case. And so they said motion to dismiss, request for declaration of immunity, and incorporated memorandum of the law, which the website kind of implies that you see the judge said this and this, that they would get immunity. She did not win this case. This one, she lost. The stand your ground hearing for 2 days, lost that. Now we're going to trial. So, oh man. Okay, now they say history. Now they talk about the relationship history. After meeting in 2016, Douglas Benefield, the decedent, and Ashley were married following a 13-day whirlwind romance. 30 years her senior, Mr. Benefield portrayed himself as everything that Miss Benefield was waiting for her entire life. She wrote in her diary that she's just praying for God to send her the perfect man who right before him was Trump. I'm not kidding, okay? She worked for Donald Trump. She was smitten with him. She was like, he's the perfect man for me. And she bragged that he called her my baby, like my little baby and my baby girl, all kinds of things. When Donald Trump was shown a picture of her with him, he's like, I don't know who that is. Like, who the hell is that? But he did offer her a job. She stayed in Mar-a-Lago, and she did run some of his campaigns for him. She was part of that process. But the point is, she was just smitten with Donald Trump. That did not work out because he moved on with his married life. And so he moved on, yes, with everything he was doing. And so she's like, that did not work out. Next up, Douglas Benefield, who she thought had big bucks, okay? And she couldn't believe that he actually didn't. You know what I mean? I think he had money, but not as much as he might have been saying, from what I read from that Vanity Fair article. Okay, so now they talk again about all of this. The punching of the walls, the perception. Then they show exhibits of how strong he was. Like, okay. Like how fit, in shape, and strong he was. To try to dismiss the case, right? Laura says, all I can think is, how do you have the energy for this? It's like she was addicted to chaos, right? This is one of the roller coaster relationship. Okay, so they talk about the U-Haul truck and all of this. Again, these documents, oh my word, there's so much. I just wanted to show you that they detail everything. They wanted to dismiss the case. They show her alleged injuries. And then at the end here, sorry, wait, there's a picture there where they're like, look at it. I don't know, man. I'm also getting a little bit Amber Heard vibes, a little bit. But okay, at the end here, I'm just scrolling quickly to show you. They show Exhibit 1, and these are the depositions that we heard some of, where Doug and Ashley were in court. Okay, they say in the matter of Ashley Christina Benefield, not Banfield, Benefield, okay, with one N, petitioner and Douglas, so she's the petitioner, Douglas Glass Benefield is the respondent. And it says, I'm not asking you, the question that I think the court asked him was, I'm not asking you what Ashley did, what happens with the gun? He says, Doug says, after a few, maybe another minute to 2 minutes, I couldn't tell you the exact time. Of Ashley talking about Eva, of Ashley talking, I'm begging her to stop talking and to please stop. And your head's on the counter? My head's on the counter. What happens with the gun? She wouldn't stop, just completely would not stop. And so out of complete and utter frustration, no anger whatsoever, I don't remember feeling a single iota of anger. It was purely utter frustration. And so, the question is, what happened? The gun's sitting in front of me and I pulled it out of the sleeve and I shot at the ceiling. Did you say anything before you did it? Answer, did I say anything? Yeah. About? I said nothing except for I was, up to that point, asking her to please stop talking and please give it a rest. What was the rest about? About her reading Eva's diary and telling him, pick me. Like, basically, stop with Eva, okay, your own daughter, and just pick me. Oh, my word. So it's very childish fights that were going on. And, yeah, I think at some point, both of them, both at times would, like, snap, if you can call it that, which all is just very abusive and childish and terrible, okay? They just were not good for each other at all. So, Miranda said they are not allowed to use his deposition at the trial unless there's other supporting evidence. Yeah, the judge is very strict on the boundaries of this trial. So here as well, some people earlier were saying, where's any police reports that she had filed? So Manatee County Sheriff's Office, here's some, where she talks about, on October 1st, 2019 at 4:35 p.m., I received a text message from Doug Benefield admitting to having secretly placed a tracking device on my car. After several incidents of stalking, I verbally confronted Doug about my concerns that he was tracking my car. He admitted to stalking me at my job, including hiding in the parking lot and taking pictures and videos of the building and people going in and out. He said he only did this because he loved me and was just worried, a worried husband, and said any good husband would do the same. This particular incident is also referenced by Doug in this text. I promise you going forward, I won't do anything stupid, embarrassing, and insulting like I did with water or something. This statement continues, okay? Or back early in the year when put Eva's tracker on your car. So she did document a few things, okay? All I could say is I'm going to stay neutral. And all I can say is in this mess, I don't know, did it happen? We want to believe victims, but did it happen? Or was she trying to keep Doug away from their child? Right? Yeah, Healing Art says we watched quite a few trials that a divorce would have been easier. This is a prime example. So yeah, there's lots, as you can see, look at all these documents, exhibits, text messages. We can hardly read these. But he does in those text messages, when I super squinted my eyes, say, yes, he admits to putting Eva's tracker on her car. Because he wanted to know if she's cheating on him. Also because she started walking around with an engagement ring saying that she's met someone else. What? When they weren't even divorced yet? Like, what was going on there? Okay. Now, Kerry says Ashley's used to getting her own way. Wanted marriage, reversal, baby, dance school, and Doug sorted it all. But when Ashley wanted him to ditch his daughter, he wouldn't do that. Hence, plausible motive there, murder. And Healing Art said she's the perfect example of entitled. Yes, unfortunately, I do agree. It seems so. It's really, if you look at the whole picture, as much as the whole picture's very broad right now, there's a lot of content out there. A lot of documents, a lot of documentaries, a lot of things to watch and learn about this case. But ultimately, we're going to learn, I guess, everything that the public will learn at the trial. And I can't wait to see what happens and what evidence, especially the state, is going to bring up, because that will definitely, it'll be interesting. Like, is she someone manipulating the system? If so, I'm going to snark it up so much, because don't do that. If someone is not truly a victim of domestic violence, coercive control, and stalking, and then uses that to like get revenge against a man or get him out of the picture, that is terrible. I'm not saying she did that, but some people believe that possibility exists, right? If it turns out to be that, I'm going to be so mad. Don't abuse the system. There's so many victims struggling, right? My goodness. So let's see, though. Let's see. And even if, as I say, if she's a victim of domestic violence, coercive control, and stalking, you can't just shoot the guy when you feel like it. You got to follow the processes. You got to do the paperwork. You got to actually file for divorce and then divorce him. You can't just be like, look, I have a ring. I'm engaged to someone else. No, that's very childish. Actually go and file for divorce. Even if Doug says he doesn't believe in it, take it to the police, take it to the court. Do all the things you need to do, like an adult. You can't just be like, that's it, I'm leaving him. Oh my word, I shot him in self-defense. If that's what's happening here, we don't know. Okay. So, Vanessa says, coming across very strange so far, though. Right? I can't believe it's a year. A year ago, we spoke about this case. That time flew. And a year ago, we thought that in summer of 2023, we're going to be watching the trial. It just so happened to be a year later. So summer of 2024, we're going to be watching the trial that we already started preparing for last year. Okay. Objection Cake said, I think it's important not to fall for his Ashley made me do it when speaking of the abuse that he admitted to, in my opinion. Yes, I do think that's important as well. Hence, I say, this case is so complex, it could be all of the things at once. And still, unfortunately, if someone's such an abuser, you still can't just shoot them when you feel like it, or when you've had enough. It just doesn't work like that. And that would be abusing the system. Yeah, so, Sugar Magnolia, thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Janet says, thank you for the defluff rabbit hole prep. Yes, the rabbit hole is like, whoo, you could stay in there forever, okay? So yes, this is defluffed rabbit hole trial prep. I hope you feel more prepared for next week. I hope you'll come and join me next week. Subscribe. Make sure you are subscribed. Sometimes YouTube will automatically unsubscribe you. I don't know why. It just happens. It's automation, you know. Things can go wrong when they do updates or things. Make sure you subscribe. Put the notifications on, and I will see you for that. Obviously, we're going to see you. I'll see you in between, and there's still probably more things to discuss. Like and share so that others can know this information. But next week, Monday, July 22nd of 2024, is jury selection. They said that the court said it'll last about a day or so. If it's 2 days, I won't be surprised, but a day or two, let's say that. And then the trial is set to last a week or two, which is also not that long. It's in Florida, Manatee County, which is great for me because that's East Coast time. And that means I'm only 6 hours ahead. And I will be starting every day's coverage a little bit later, 2 hours or so that we don't have to sit through lunch breaks and coffee breaks and whatever else comes up. All right, everyone. So lastly, yesterday, a lot of people asked, how can we support Eva, who literally had to pick up the pieces herself? Eva, the daughter of Doug Benefield. Her mom died. 9 months later, her dad married Ashley Benefield. 3 years later, he's murdered. Or in self-defense, okay, he dies. And so she's like so young and has to fend for herself. And she worked so hard. She talks about it on her TikTok as well. She runs all her own social media. She makes all her own t-shirts. I know some Grizzlies have already ordered some. And thank you for sending me pictures of that as well. So I've linked her t-shirt company called ghostcowboy.com, I believe it is. It's in the description box, okay? So go click on that. Go check out her t-shirt that she makes herself. And she actually does ship internationally. Yes. Stefan says no ceiling fan. No, we're allergic to those, eh? No, we don't want to look at the ceiling fan for hours. Bert and Ernie's Adventures, welcome. To any new members, welcome. We'll have a members only stream probably tomorrow. So, all right, everyone. I'll see you again very soon. Don't want to make this too long. And please go check out part 1, part 2 if you missed it. And this is part 3. And there's a playlist for you. Okay, bye, everyone.